The dryland band had swelled far beyond the dreams of a young man. Faces from all across Westeros fought alongside him and his snapdragon. First, they followed the young knight for his tale of true love, and with that goal achieved, they now help Darien reunite Sarah with her young child. Soldiers have been gathered in the bow mound. The Thinns surely must know what is coming for them now, yet they will not go down without a fight. The fate of all beyond the wall could be decided in the coming months. Yet while Darien's influence in the land has grown significantly, so too do the many clans that make up the realms beyond the wall. The king of the First Forest has claimed much of the southeastern coast, while the Thinns have started to expand their influence outside of their own valley. The woods shall have their eyes on Darien and his band. Sitting in his fortification on the Corpse Cove is King Lenor, king of the First Forest, the king beyond the wall. Darien has not yet dealt with the man, yet an alliance with the First Forest could go far. Many among his council have pleaded with Darien to seek the aid of the Forester King, but to secure such an alliance, a marriage would be needed, and that was what got them into this mess in the first place. No, neither Darien nor Sarah would be marrying off one of their young sons. With fire and blood, Sarah Targaryen will claim what is hers. For now, they would be leaving the forests behind, marching to the north, but not to the valley's opening, but rather to the glacier that sat to its east. There, they could learn more about their foes. In addition, the local chieftain, Agmund, had a number of renegades and reprobates, causing him trouble, a small task for Darien and the band. And so they set out on what they hoped would be a rather short journey. And sure enough it was. In the ragged hills of Arskveth, Darien met the criminal Sodden. They would spill blood. With a sudden twitch, their bout began. Darien attacking first, on guard. With all his strength, Darien surged past Soren's guard, launching into a fervent strike with his spear, aiming to run him through. Only by the narrowest of margins does Sodden stop him from claiming bloody victory, stabbing at the man again with a flurry of thrusting jabs. With one well-placed strike, victory could be attained. Channeling the legends of old, Darien ran the man through, cleanly removing the head of Sodden, claiming victory in the eyes of gods and men. Tossing Sodden's severed head at Agamemnon's agent's feet, Darien collected the gold and provisions owed. Returning to Magna Carta and settling in the tavern, Darien's eyes are ever in search of those that might be worthy to travel with him. It was there his eyes fell upon Hardbine, the philanthropic, a fine specimen, and a man clearly capable of fighting alongside the Knights of the Dornishmen. For 75 gold, he would be joining the ranks of the band. Yet another opportunity had presented itself in the Idle Barrens for an exceptional success. Chieftain Ardmore, Boar Warrior of the Ghost Lakes, was offering 124 gold, a sizable amount of prestige and provisions to boot. The travel was to be short and sweet, but not without its dangers. The glacier, as ever, presented many dangers, both natural and done. Yet the only dangers they would be facing were the mundane, a shattered wagon wheel and delayed travel. Arriving a few days later, Darien was greeted by Jolf, a giant of a man. But Darien could not afford to listen to the peasant leader. He needed Ardamore's support. Cruel as it may be, Darien would have no choice but to plant his foot and hope that Jolf would listen. And listen he did. Yet, on their returning journey, as the band traversed the ice sheet, fate would intervene. The band carefully navigated around and through crevasses and gullies that scored the surface of the ice. Darien heard a faint yelp behind him. As he turned to follow the sound, he could see Ronnet, the laggard, at the rear of his entourage, clinging to the edge of a crevasse. His sled hung down beneath him, his face twisting to horror as he screamed out for Darien, desperately fighting against the weight of the sled, pulling him towards his doom. "Hold tight, I'm pulling you up," Darien called as he reached for his fellow, pulling him up out of the crevasse, along with his sled. Upon arriving in the village, Darien would exchange some of his new gold for extra provisions. Provisions he would utilize to swell the ranks of his army. On paper, Magnar Tormund's military strength vastly outnumbered that of the Dryland Band. Yet in the mind of Darien, they had the gods and a dragon on their side. War was declared on the 11th of 10th moon, 90 AC. With the banners raised, Darien's army marched to the southern entry point of the Thenns Valley. It was there, amongst the hills, that Darien would await his foe. Patience was key. An early victory could win them the war. Word first arrived from Vosvolin. King Magnar and his forces marched to meet the young Dornishman. But other matters had Darien's attention too. Grave news had reached him. His son and heir, Darien the Younger, had fallen ill with the leprosy. While he may yet live for many years, his deformity will make him shunned and mistrusted. Even Darien could not suppress his disgust at the thought of lesions growing all over his skin. Clement wanted to know how Darien's son should be treated. He was a Dryland and a Targaryen. Darien instructed Clement to be cautious, to do no more than what was necessary. His son yet lived, and for a moment at least, the symptoms would not be so severe. But now was the time for battle. The 1st Battalion of King Magnar clashed with the ranks of Darien. With the two armies separate, it was now that they would stand their best chance. In the heat of battle, Eldario was slain, yet Sarah and Dreamfire would win the day. As the battle ended, Darien took a moment to survey the littered hills of Spursk, strewn with Dryland Band and Thin dead, before turning to the shackled prisoners of war. Magnar Tormund, that blasted cur of the Seven Hells, was finally in Darien's hands. Long had he dreamt laying low his nemesis, yet it was not right to kill the man here, not now. But Darien would be sure that Magnar Tormund would never forget this day. A wound left across his face. His attention then turned to the wide man, Gavin. Many of the soldiers spoke highly of him, and with that same blade, slick with the Magnar's blood, Darien knighted the red-haired man. Gavin was now a knight of the realm. It was a slaughter. 211 of the Dryland Band had fallen, while nearly 5,000 Thenns fell that day. The armored footmen of the band claiming many of those lives. Yet it was Sarah Targaryen and Dreamfire that truly made the difference. But even then, Reynard, Serene, and Irella nearly matched the dragon's might. Yet his good friend and caravan master Eldario was slain. But Josie Frosthorn, the Pentoshiman, had not only been a guide, but a true and good friend to Darien. The Flame Claw would be missed. Yet a new caravan master would be needed, and it was Darien's knight, Arella Golden Crest, that would take up the mantle. And while Magnar Tormund had been captured by the band, there was no sign of Sarah's little one, no. She and the Magnar's heir, Steiget, would no doubt still reside in Tanv-Vanag. It would be a dangerous march, but the band had little choice. They needed to act fast before Steiget could flee, and so, with speed, they marched. Many would fall to small skirmishes before the band would meet the forces of the Thenns once again. At the Battle of Kelskam. Greatly outnumbered once again, Darien hoped that the quality of his troops would overcome the numbers of his enemies, a plan that seemed to be working. The use of Dreamfire in the Battle of Kelskam has proved most effective. While the clash of swords and shields rang out loudly, Princess Sarah's deep blue dragon let out a ferocious roar, sending the enemy troops running in all directions. The band's own soldiers took advantage of the situation, crushing the opposition. All the while, Dreamfire unleashed torrents of flame upon Lilia's folly. The action was a great boon to the battle. Quickly, the tides turned with the retreating troops, chased down by Sarah and the mounted horsemen of the band. After all was said and done, Ronnet was presented to Darien, wearing naught but a helm. The man was covered head to toe in blood, lifted into the air by his fellow soldiers. A hasty knighting was called for. As Ronnet arose, he did so as a knight. The band's speed was faster than ever under the command of Darien Dryland. Tanv-Vanag was finally in sight. And while the band's numbers had dwindled, their resolve was strong. Somewhere within the walls of the fort, Jhena was to be found. Yet it was to be no simple siege. It would take time. Darien's commanders estimating at least half a year, and so the band settled in, having no illusions that the Thens wouldn't return. They all knew they would. It was a matter of when, not if. Yet there, outside the walls of Tanv-Vanag, in the army's camp, Sarah gave birth once again to yet another son, their third together. Alias, she called him, a noble name, another dryland, born beyond the wall. It was the first of fourth moon when the Thens returned, charging out across the grassy fields. From the forest, Dreamfire arose, tired and cold. The Dryland band had a difficult fight ahead. It was sharp blades and firm armor. The poorer equipped troops of the Thens fell in droves. Yet not all of the band were immune. Darien's maester and friend Clement was among the lives claimed. In the end, the battle was closer than Darien would like. With the fodder of the Thens slain, only the best of their troops remained. A fierce fight, an epic victory. Yet the band's siege held, with Darien losing over 100, and the Thens close to 2,000. Yet again, Sarah and Dreamfire claimed many. Yet Cyrene, Ariella, and Renard did their fair share. Cyrene, one of Darien's oldest and closest advisors, was maimed in the battle. Donning a mask of iron, she swore she would not rest long. While it would pain him to do so, Darien sent word, ravens out to the wall, that he was in need of a maester again. With the battle finished, the siege was progressing well. 3 months remained. A raven quickly returned from the wall. Wyman, a dubious physician at best, had accepted Darien's call, a hunchback and former maester. Yet the conclave had stripped him of his chain. Even Clement was not on the best terms with the conclave. Perhaps this man could be trusted too. Darien had no qualms with Wyman's past. They were in need of a maester, and he was close enough. Darien was trapped in a tricky situation. He had Magnar Tormund locked away in his camp's prison. He had the fortress of the Thens surrounded. Yet, should he wish, Tormund could surrender at any moment. But with the whereabouts of Sarah's child still unknown, that would not do. And though it pained Darien to do so, he would have to release the king of the Thens. There would be conditions, however, a favor owed, sworn to the gods beyond the wall, an unbreakable oath. As for now, the siege was reaching its conclusion as yet another army drew close. With only days remaining, this final battle would decide the fates of many. Yellowcat was the name of the enemy commander, and though he only fielded a small number of free folk bowmen and horsemen, they still fought valiantly. Yet that valor was no match for a dragon. The knights of the Dryland Band and the dragon Dreamfire secured victory for Darien this day. Amongst the fallen, Penny, the soul flame. So much death, so much sacrifice. Yet all the sacrifice led to the breaching of Tanv-Vanag. Within its walls, many were found, reunited for the first time in many years. Her silver hair, unmistakable. The eldest of Sarah's children was with her once again. Darien left them together so that he might see to the dead and the dying. Penny, Aldario, and Clement. This campaign had cost the three of their lives, and the lives of many others, warriors from both beyond the wall and the kingdom of the Iron Throne. But such is life in Westeros. Many die for a few, and in this case, their lives were sacrificed for one. But the lives that they had lived amongst the Dryland Band were lives that they could not find back on the other side of the wall. Penny, the Soul Flame, a woman who claimed the lives of many men. She could not hold the same position, serving the lords on the other side of the wall. And Clement was cast out, a maester no more, yet he had healed so many on his travels with Darien. Many of those lessons still stick with the young knight that is not so young anymore. He has seen war. He has seen firsthand the power of the Targaryen dragons, just as he knows the danger that lurks within his own wife. It was there that the end of the war was negotiated. Darien and Sarah sought no lands. This war had been for her child alone. Stygot and Tormund's hands were tied. They each swore not to pursue Sarah or her daughter, or Darien for that matter, and that Jhena would remain Stygot's heir should he produce no other, and that her claim for the Valley of the Fens would still stand. And so it was, a white peace was offered and accepted by Magnar Tormund. The conflict had ended, Sarah victorious. Their little family had grown fast. The two of them, only 5 and 20 years of age, and every child had that Targaryen blood flowing through their veins. Every one of them a potential dragon rider in the making. A poignant question lingered in the air. What would come next? Darien had won his love, saving her from the bitter north, and she, in turn, saved her own child from the same fate. The South was still dangerous for them both. Sarah had stolen a dragon and had married another against the wishes of her father, the king. And Darien was no doubt wanted for kidnapping. The realm of the Iron Throne was a danger to them both, yet they could not linger here too. While, yes, truces were made, promises forged, all of those can be broken. Their life beyond the wall had been harsh, not just for Darien and Sarah, but for the whole band. They craved the warmth of the South, yet they knew Westeros would be no friend to them. Perhaps then the East, the lands beyond the Narrow Sea. The tale of Darien and the Snapdragon had already reached those eastern shores. Yes, to the south, to the east they would go. What adventures await? But for Darien, though, he longed for home, for the sands of Dawn. There, too, they could find safety. Dawn, after all, had not bowed before the Iron Throne. Jaehaerys, the great conciliator, sought the land, yet over many generations, the Targaryens had failed to rein in the Dornish. Perhaps there they could find a home. Yet, that is a tale for the future. For now, a great voyage was ahead of them. They were still far to the north and had further still to travel yet. All without Aldario. There were many dangerous days ahead. But for now, for a brief, fleeting moment, their family was whole once again.